I just turned on the live. It's going to take a
Oh,
couple.
hi everybody.
Oh, it'll take a couple of minutes. I mean, you're live on the replay,
Yeah.
but it's going to take a minute. I'll tag you on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So you're in Oregon now. What part of Oregon?
I am. I'm in a place called Depot Bay, which is 2 hours south of where I grew up in Cannon Beach.
So you're on the coast?
Well, let me make it more clear. I am smack dab on the coast. I can see the ocean from my house.
Are you serious?
Well, from the house I live in, not my house, but
Wow.
um, yeah.
That's
Um,
cool.
if you picture the Columbia River that separates Oregon and Washington,
Yeah.
and you drive down Highway 101 two and
Right.
a half hours, you would be where I am.
Okay. So Angie Parker's over that way. Do you know her?
Mm-mm.
Angie Parker. Yeah, she's been around Sology since probably 2014. Uh, yeah, she's over there. She lives in her van,
Mm.
and she spends some time in the mountains on the beach. I have another friend there, old friend, Janelle or Jeanette. I can't remember. I introduced the two of them, but yeah, I should put you in touch with Angie. She's very cool
Yeah.
lady.
If either of those women are on the replay, please send me a private message so we can
Yeah,
meet each
here I'll make a note.
other. Okay.
I'll make a note because I know the coast is. And I think 2.5 hours, because you're probably what, like an hour and a half from Eureka, California, as you go into California, down 101.
No, no, I'm much further up north.
Oh, you're much
You know,
further.
to go from the top of Oregon to the bottom takes about 6 hours or
Okay, so
more.
you're like you're less than
And I'm
halfway
only two I'm only 2 hours,
from
two and a half
Washington.
hours
Yeah,
from the top of from the top.
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Renee Daniels said, "Love Angie." Yeah, Angie's very cool lady, very cool lady. She's been on probably 20 times on this show.
Hmm.
So what's happening? You're in Oregon. You get a download that you have to leave Santa Fe. You know, you just what? Where did that come from? How long did you know about it? How much notice did you have?
I knew about it. I could feel it for a long time, but I just didn't know. Like I hear things coming sometimes years, sometimes months before they actually happen.
Hmm.
So it was in the works for me to leave Santa Fe quite a while, but it was November of 21 that it came in loud and clear, and I just said okay, and I posted something and it said my days in Santa Fe are numbered. I can feel it in my bones.
I saw that. What town are you in again? Renee Daniels said her and her boyfriend drive that coastline frequently.
Depot Bay.
Depot Bay. Yeah, Renee, send her a
Yeah, send
message.
me a way to connect,
Yeah,
Renee.
I mean that's what it's all about. That's
It
what it's all
is.
about.
I've been thinking about Sology. Well, I think about Sology every day, but I was thinking about Sology yesterday and today, and I thought just how cool it is. It's a platform for soul family,
Mm,
basically,
yeah,
and how many experiences have been generated by this platform. Friendships and all sorts
that's
of things.
that's to
That's
me
what it's all
that's
about.
yeah, that's got to
Yeah,
be one of the top three attributes. I was talking to Morgan about it yesterday because I won't mention any names. I don't know if it would be wrong to, but so another couple connected online than in the flesh. I saw their pictures. Oh, what's that noise? How weird.
I don't know.
Um, but another couple connected through Sology, and and we know of a number of them. I mean, I would think probably it's off the top of my head. Honestly speaking, I would say I probably know of 50 couples. Now, have they all stayed together? Not necessarily, but then I also know of so many people that have connected all over the world in the flesh and obviously online, but I mean in the flesh,
So
right?
cool. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And then of course, like Sology Fest was that way to me, and so like we got the next one coming.
Wow.
We're gonna have one September 23rd, 24th, and 25th
I'll
in
be there.
Arkansas. Yeah,
I know. I'm
and I'm hoping that we'll hey, there's Anna Toothman. She was there. Terry Willett was there. Delia was there.
Terry, hi
Yeah.
Terry.
Uh, I'm hoping that we can triple the amount of people because we obviously kept it at 100 last time, but I think we're going to shoot for 300. And but I was just, Morgan and I have been talking about it, how, even like we're not really pursuing, let's just say, the bigger names in these communities. There's plenty of platforms for those names, and I think the real value for me and for her is the people like us. People that have their stories, and the people that come on uh, to have a platform and a voice
I feel
that's
that.
kind of, I'm not going to say dedicated to it. I mean, we may have you know somebody come on that's well known or something at some point. I don't know, but I was just looking at these posters of some of these other conferences and stuff, which I've attended, a few of them, and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool to just put a poster up. You have to excuse me because I'm very sluggish and I'm really not feeling well. Yesterday was an incredible day. We need to talk about it, and but today I woke up. I haven't felt this bad in over 6 months. I mean, it's bad.
Ugh.
I just took some aspirin about 20 minutes ago. But yeah, I was thinking, yeah, let's put out some posters of the people that are going to be there, so you can see who you're going to meet, and wow, she's going to be there, he's going to be there, and then remember at the Sology Fest last year, over a little over half of our stage time was all spontaneous. It was all
Yep.
who wants to come up and share testimony, who wants to play the didgeridoo, who wants to play the guitar, who wants to do light language. I mean, and I think that's a really big part of the Soulogy energy is just whoever shows up and wants to participate, if they want to, then let's do it.
I advocate for anybody who has just an inkling of inspiration to go, because it's hard to translate what happens there when you haven't been. But I will tell you that we were in another dimension for the whole weekend, and it was an introduction to the new Earth and what is possible for humanity. I mean, there was no arguments, there was no fights. The technology was seamless. Everything was
Six
seamless. I
Black Hawk
mean,
helicopters flew over us.
yeah, there were rainbow orbs float. There was a rainbow orb that was floating around at one point. There were magical things that happened in that teepee
Yeah,
for many people. I mean, just so
yeah.
anyway,
It was.
I hope whoever's on here that wants to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
gets there.
That was a very vibrant weekend too around the world, and I think there was a lot of that type of energy being anchored. But there's no doubt because a lot of people have had, um, you know, dimensional experiences in lucid dream and in meditation and just in the flow of everything that that are connected to that event, and that's the truth. I mean,
Hmm.
I've had a lot of people tell me
Yeah.
this. Where in Arkansas will it be held? It will be held at in the Fort Smith area, Blake's Channel.
Do
Yeah.
you remember, Todd? The triplets and I were having a picture taken of us, and I said, "Oh, let me see," and
Oh
whoever's
yeah,
camera it was, I was like, "Look above us, there's a map of the world," and I
yeah,
was like, "Yeah, we're here anchoring in the new Earth,"
yeah,
pretty wild. So I back to your question about when did I get the message. So I you saw that post. I said my days in Santa Fe are numbered,
yeah.
and either that night or the next day, my friend Brian, he texted me and he said, "Hey, I know this is a long shot and it's totally out of the blue, but how would you like to come to Depot Bay and help take care of my father?"
Wow,
And I said, "Well, let me think about it." And then the next day I was like, "Yep, that's it. That's my ticket out of here. I gotta go."
wow. So
And
I think I read that you're going to be doing that in that role for what, like 6 months or something? Or
yep,
okay.
yep. So um, probably, well, 7 months, because it took a month just to land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was yeah, it took this. You started saying sometime back, and that pretty soon it's going to be time to like roll up our sleeves and get to work, and there's all sorts of ways that we serve.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we're not even aware of the ways that we're served, but you can serve by having a Soulogy show, or you can serve by sharing codes, or you can serve by taking care of people. There's as
Holding
many things as
space.
you can think
Holding
of, right?
space.
Yeah. And so when I arrived here, every inch of this space inside and out needed love and attention, and needed, um, simple maintenance, even just to make the house safe. Like I averted a house fire since I've been here because the fan on the furnace had gone bad. And so, um, the first month here, my frequency just really took a dive. There were other energies that I weren't aware of at first, and there was um, the okay. So here's the story. The man that lives here, his name is Ken,
Okay.
and his family and my family were friends when I grew up in Cannon Beach,
Okay.
Oregon. And so our families were friends. And then his son was driving a car in 1983 on Valentine's Day, and I was in that car. There were five of us all together, and we were in a nearly fatal accident where I lost half the blood in my body, and I flew out of the
How
car, and
how old were you? How,
15.
so you and his son were in the car?
Yeah, yeah. His son
Wow.
was driving. So, and the song on the we were playing a Beatles cassette tape, and the song that was playing is "Nothing's Gonna Change Our World." It's like, oh yeah, watch this. So, uh,
Universal paradox in motion.
right. So anyway, that's just interesting, right? That connection. So Ken, um, Ken has lived in Depot Bay for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And a year ago, his partner was diagnosed with cancer,
Okay.
and a bunch of things happened all at the same time, right? So then Ken was taken away at some point in an ambulance to have his gallbladder removed. He's
God.
83 years old,
Okay.
and he ended up in Portland at like after the hospital when you're not ready to
Rehab.
go home yet, a
Yeah.
rehab center. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that time, Frances, his partner, continued to decline in health. And so she went to Chicago to see her one of her children, and then she went to Denmark to basically live the rest of her life with one of her children.
Okay.
And so she's no longer here, but they resided in this house as a couple together for 10 years.
Mm.
And so there was a presence still in the house, and there was, along with that presence, was um, a lot of anger from previous history. And then there's still there's grief in the house too, right? I mean, this is somebody that just lost their life partner, right?
Yeah.
So there was that, and then there was even some anger hanging out from a woman who lived on this property even before this house existed. So there was all these energy. So it was like I was, cleaning and scrubbing and organizing and doing all that, but I was also doing an
Of
energetic
course.
cleanup,
Yeah. Of course.
major, major, and in service, and but then we get to the magic part where um I start understanding, oh, this is about lineage, and it's about integration, and it's about magic and all these things. Okay, so there's a neighbor directly across the street. His name is Laird, Laird, but
Laird.
people call him Larry because
La-
it's just easier for them.
Hmm.
So people call him Larry. So, well, Larry was my dad's name. So then he tells me this story about how many moons, he's like 78 years old, but many, many moons ago, he had a daughter who died when she was 16 months old. Well, her name was Julie. So now we got my dad and we got me. Then he says that he had a wife, his first wife, and she was diagnosed as being bipolar. Well, at some point, my mom, uh, maybe sometime in her 30s, she was given that same label. So
Okay.
now you've got my mom, my dad, and me, right? All in this one neighbor. So then Ken says, "Oh yeah, I'd like to introduce you to my best friend in town. Her name is Jane." And so Jane comes over. She's this wonderful, sweet, sweet lady. She's somewhere, late 70s, early 80s. She brings us this apple pie, and she says, "Well, my name is Jane Harvey Richardson." Well, so my dad's mom, her name was Janice. My dad's name was Harvey,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandma's maiden name was Richardson.
You can't make this shift up.
So so now you've got oh, and here's another piece. Larry across the street, Laird, who had a daughter Julie and had the bipolar wife, his last name is Brown. Well, my stepmom who helped raise me off and on since I was 4, her last name was Brown.
Yeah.
So
I was see. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you before you even went into all that. There's a lot to be said for going back. It's almost like a circle, right? Like you go back to these places. There's so many people. I know Morgan and I have done it together and separately. You go back and you're like retracing the steps of
Mhm.
where you were, and then you have these types of these are synchronicities. They're no different than
Huge,
multiple numbers and that type of thing.
huge.
So
So
you're feeling
yeah.
that,
Well, yeah, and I knew like, oh, this is destiny, this is karmic, like to go back to Oregon because as you know, eventually I'm going to leave the country. So I was like, okay, I finish up here, I come full circle, you know, I leave off where I began, which
right?
was my life began in
Yeah,
Portland, Oregon. That's where I was born and I was raised in Cannon Beach and so here I am. And also I've been in the desert for 18 years, so to have some rain and some codes from the ocean and have the forest, which are the trees were some of my very first best friends. So I got forest here and ocean. And so, and then just for what's going on in the world and collectively and healing the lineage forward and backwards and integrating, past, present, and future, that's all happening. The last time that you and Morgan and a group of us went to the new Earth grid,
hmm.
when we arrived, I saw the house I'm living in, and my mom and dad showed up, and my dad's parents showed up, and my mom's parents showed up.
Wow.
And, my frequency had really dipped, and it was pretty arduous that first month being here, and there was a lot of energies to navigate, and I was pretty down a lot of the time. And I was so like, I think you read a post that I wrote that said like, that I felt like I had gone backwards in my evolution and all of this stuff. So anyway, so when I saw that, I saw the house and I saw, my relatives, at first I thought, "Oh, this isn't real. Like my mind is making this up." And usually when your mind tries to tell you that, it's full of shit. So that really was the case.
Right.
But I noticed that my mom's parents, they just kind of made a cameo appearance and then they left real quick. And later I found out it's because they're not completely comfortable with the new Earth grid yet. So there's some more work to do with them to talk to them about, why it may be a good idea.
Do you connect with them normally?
um Uh, well, this is interesting. 2 years ago, I went to Italy and I did a major lineage cleanup for that side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole nother story. It's very interesting. There was this person who in Santa Fe showed interest in me and we started hanging out.
Was he handsome?
And yeah,
Yeah. I just curious.
and we started hanging out. Anyway, all this weird stuff happened. And one night, I was awake like I'm talking to you right now,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I thought I was going to pass out. I had to sit down on the ground, and it felt a little bit like I was being like strangled or something.
Mm.
And I was like, "What is this?" And then that night, I had a dream that I was being strangled with electrical wires by this guy that I had been seeing. And then I learned later that he had there was a book that I had lent him, and he had literally torn a page out of that book
Uh
that
huh.
had some of my handwriting on it. And my friend said, "Oh, that's not good that he has your handwriting or whatever." And it was just kind of weird. So anyway, I cleared that whole mess up. But what I did is uh, I looked into his maternal last name because he had a paternal last name, but he said, "Oh, when my dad dies, I want to take on my maternal last name because I'm really into that last name." And I forget even what it is at the moment, but it was Italian. And I have Italian Sicilian roots, right? So I looked up that last name. This was all guided by, there's always like angels or whatever that tell me, go look up this or go seek that or go look for this information. So I looked that up. So his family name originated in Florence, and
Mm.
uh, my Sicilian grandpa's family name originated in Venice,
Mm.
right? And they feuded. Their families feuded for many, many years, like hundreds of years. There was this just yucky energy between them. So I went to Italy. I was already planning to go to Italy before all this happened.
Right.
And I did a ceremony both in the river in Florence and while I was in a boat in Italy. And it's a long story. I won't go into the detail, but I basically healed that family feud, you know? So, so yeah, so now I'm healing stuff for both sides of the lineage here.
Far out.
Yeah.
Do you know where you're going to go when you're done there? You said you're going to leave the U.S.
I don't know. I don't know exactly. Before I was thinking to go to Mexico briefly because I've lived there before and I have some friends I want to see, and it just felt like maybe it's calling me a little bit. And then Costa Rica was a possibility, but I'm not sure. Portugal was on the list for a minute, but I don't know that it still is. And it's interesting. I listened to you and Lenny speaking before I got on here, and there was so much overlap. And then and then she said something about Mexico, and then she said something about Portugal, and then um Ireland. I don't know. It's just while she was talking, I was like, wow, yeah, I must be about ready to go on the show because there's all these like parallels
Mm.
happening. It was very interesting.
You know, since the I believe March 31st, there's been massive daily solar storms, CMEs, G7, whatever. I don't know all the terms. Massive amounts coming. I think yesterday somebody said there was 17 in the morning. There had already been 17. Uh, are you feeling any of this?
I'll tell you what I do feel is so I've been connecting with the sun a lot in the past, I don't know, 2 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I usually try to connect with it once a day or, as often as I can. And I mean, I know that the sun is the sun, right? And you can go anywhere in the world and the sun is still the sun. But I get very different codes from the sun here than I was getting in New Mexico. Like, because the sun will often it'll show me constellations, or it'll show me sacred geometry, or it'll show me the colors. Lots of times it shows me colors that I don't see. Um, when I open my eyes, they're colors that I've never seen
Like off
before.
planet.
I
Yeah.
know like what family they're from, like, oh, this is in the orange family or the
Right,
green
right.
family or whatever. And it was showing me lots of white, and it was showing me lots of these like kind of like very uh lighter tones, like more pastel tones of like green, almost like sea green or something.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, I didn't see that in New
So,
Mexico. So something's different.
yeah, okay. So these journeys that uh, you were talking about that we've taken into the New Earth grid. Um, uh, the groups that Morgan is doing with people. I think she's got a UK group and a US group. Um, the one that we did, the workshop one, My Lucid Dreams, which have been every night, pretty much all month. There's been a lot of white, like being in a room. You've got everything you have in the room, but everything's white, and then also this sea green blue
Yeah.
has showed up for a lot of people. It's
Look
not.
at these two colors.
Let me see.
Look at here's sea green.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's
yeah.
white.
There you go. So yeah, like there, and it's not blue only, and it's not green only. It's like this
No.
sea aqua color
Yeah.
and derivatives of this aqua.
Yeah, it's like a
So
light blue and a light green mix or
yeah,
something.
I've seen a lot of people talking about this month. So um, I don't know. There was this girl in the universe.com. A lot of people follow her.
Hmm.
Her and Pars Kate. A lot of people follow him. Uh, both of them, and I actually saw two other ones in the last week, but I can't remember who they were, talking about the figuratively speaking, or metaphorically speaking, or literally speaking, I don't know, the 3 days of darkness. That more talk about that. We've heard about this in the past, and I'm not taking anything away
Yeah.
from anybody. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna
I've read
propose a
about it.
question in this conversation, but like, because I know you're lit, and we're just trying to everybody put what they know, and we'll figure this shit out, right? But I mean, so that started to pick up. There was another one that what's her name, Pam Gregory. A lot of people follow her. She's got 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. She's an astrology person. She interviews a few people. Evidently has a really high degree of credibility. She shared a channel a couple of days ago from one of her listeners.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard
Yeah.
it.
So, and she was talking about from the channel, whoever was transmitting the channel to the person that sent it to her was talking about they didn't expect or realized, like almost like they were in shock that we're moving so fast. So I'm just curious, just in this conversation, of course, there's no right or wrong. What's your feel for that? I mean, I know we need to stay open to everything,
Yeah.
and that means everything, but it sure feels like something really, really, and the speed of everything, or I don't know what you want to call it, the force, since the 1st of April, maybe even since the 22nd of February, but certainly this month. Are you feeling anything like that in your field or to your sensitivities?
The more like the most grounded, earthy, practical way I can talk about it is that I just feel like a day is like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's a speeding. I mean, you were talking about like speeding up. Um,
But at the same time, it's like a lifetime. You know,
yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, like
yeah,
Morgan
yeah.
and I were talking about this last night, and how, just in the normal course of things, just like we're doing right now. We discuss things, what's going on, what are you experiencing, what am I experiencing, uh, and what are you picking up on, what you're feeling, and then we kind of put it all over here and go, and then you have the energy that keeps coming in faster and bigger every day, and it's almost like everything gets erased, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you wake up and it's a whole new reality. And I was just talking to her this morning, saying, to me, it's like anything that's in the past is not even real now. And it's like if you want to take it with you, then you can. But
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So there's this other thing that's happening that when we wake up, we're waking up again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So
Yeah.
when I first got here, man, it was a trip. It was like I was on psychedelics without being in psychedelics, right? It was that, like, it had never been so strong for me. I'd go out into the world because, I got to go buy groceries. I mean, I basically run the whole house and do all the cooking, and so I'm the one who goes out into the world and does stuff, right? So um I would go out into the world, to run these errands or get something I needed or get something done, and it was just so clear to me, that like it was movie like. It was like I was seeing the Matrix, like
Yeah.
the inverted Matrix, like I'd never seen it for, and it made me really uncomfortable. I was like, ah, like I remember one day I ended up on whatever aisle it is where they have like all the Glade and all the air fresheners and all the
Oh.
toxic artificial, and all the like laundry detergent. And I thought I was gonna faint. Like my liver was just like, get me off this aisle. And just like everything, I just saw how everything is so like artificial and
Yeah.
toxic, and I'm sensitive to that kind of stuff, because remember I told you about that mushroom trip where I had just gotten my blankets dry cleaned, and I put one
Yeah.
over 'em, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden the lines went straight, but everything had been curvy before that.
Right.
Remember? So that was just like hitting me in the face for my first 3 weeks here, just how things are just like, there's just like no reverence for resources. It's like people are almost manufacturing the idea of something rather than the actual thing and selling it to people, and it
Well,
somehow it's flying
maybe
off the
that's
shelf.
I mean, like, okay, so I've been taking, not every night. I'll take melatonin,
Mm-hmm.
which is natural. That's a natural chemical from the body
Mm-hmm.
to go to sleep, or not to go to sleep, but to help me go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I went to the store the other day, and I never have taken a lot of sleeping pills, but I had there was a period a few months ago where I was taking them. Like I took them for like maybe 2 weeks, but I purchased off the rack, and so I purchased a pharmaceutical, not a holistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out the other day, and I thought, I'm going to get a little pack of those because I've got a couple of big days coming. One of them was today because I got 3 sessions or 3 of these, and then a session tonight with Morgan. And so I thought, a day comes like that, maybe it'd be a good idea if I can go to bed early and all that. So I took it 2 nights ago, and I slept very well. Didn't it was fine. That would have been yesterday, and yesterday was just off the chain, off the hook. Yesterday was crazy, wild. But I took it last night, and before I went to sleep, as I was falling asleep, my body said, "This is not going to work. Like this will no longer work. Like you're not." Or like the team here that represented by the body, we're not going to be able to take this on. As soon as I woke up, that was where I was at. I was like, wow, that was like somebody intruded my space. So I immediately went and threw them out. So maybe we're becoming more sensitive, and either we're receiving it like I did, or you're receiving it from your liver telling you that when you're on the lane, on the aisle that stores all that stuff in the store. Maybe that's what's happening. Because it does feel to me like the things that aren't, let's just say, the things that are not working with us in a positive symbiotic nature,
Yeah.
or say symbiotic, but in a synergetic way,
Yeah.
be it food or whatever, those things seem to be coming in, and the things that are not serving us, so to speak, seem to be going out. And I know it's not the same for everybody. It could be different items. I mean, you could be, I could be a meat eater, and you could be a vegan, but there seems to be some of that going on. A lot of people talking about they can't eat what they used to, dropping habits, more focus on addictions, and not the stereotypical addictions, not just that singularly, not like drugs, sex, rock and roll,
Yeah.
but
No, I
even
get that.
shopping or looking at your phone, or where addictions are starting to be seen for what they are, right? So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's part of our evolution and
Mm-hmm.
a sign of our progress.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because at first, I mean, food has definitely been an issue since I've been here. It's like, what do I want to eat? When do I want to eat? Do I want to eat?
Mm,
And then there's things around me that I normally don't eat, so it's there. So I'm like, oh, let me just try a little bit of this, and I'm like, oh, So it's food has definitely been a thing lately. But then I have to admit, so when I was young, on either side of the family, we weren't allowed to eat a lot of crap. We
right,
had to be pretty healthy.
right.
But I know that every once in a while, my mom would let me get some Cheez-Its. And I really liked to
Yeah,
have Cheez-Its a
yeah.
few times a year. And I know it's like, oh yeah, it's like genetically modified wheat, and there's palm oil in there, which is like that's just a whole nother discussion about how evil uh that is. But I've eaten some Cheez-Its since I've got here,
Well,
and
and
oh my
and
god, they're totally delicious, and I love them, and this is feels so good, and I'm having so much fun eating them. And
yeah.
I don't know,
Well,
alchemy, we have to alchemize everything.
and is it happening naturally too? I was on Facebook last night on the phone, putting up posts and all that, and this ad came on. Actually, it was YouTube. Now, I haven't done this maybe once in the last year, and this ad came up for Sonic chili cheese dogs, and I looked at it. And I went, "Oh my god, I would love to have a chili cheese dog." I'm just thinking of the taste, right? And I thought, what is that? Right? Like, what
Yeah.
is that? Like, why is that? Why is that like? Because that wouldn't normally happen to me. I'm not someone who's
Yeah.
going to like be induced by an ad.
Right.
So there's so many things that we're becoming aware of, and that's what the apocalypse definition is: the unveiling, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that for everything that is being seen as the threat that it was, is, and may as well be,
Mhm.
there's another side to it: the recognition of what it is, and also the recognition of the fact that because of our expansion, they don't have the effect on us that they used to.
Mhm.
So chemtrails,
Yeah.
fluoride, GMOs. I mean, we've all consumed. I saw a pretty. I mean, you can say this is best to your best ability. A credible article. It wasn't
Mhm.
mainstream media that talked about plastic being found in the lungs of people now, and
Right.
they weren't saying that it was related to COVID or vaccines, but they were kind of saying it kind of came around when this happened. So, like all
Mhm.
these things that have been tried, I think we got to keep in mind that we've been expanding and transforming, and that does include our physical entities, and we become more impervious to things.
Mhm. I think, yeah, I think it's all happening at once. I think your state of awareness is important. I think that whether you're living, in a 12D or 5D or 3D situation, um, we are on the planet, and she is us and we are her, and it's important to take care of her.
Hmm.
And it is important to be aware of our consumption. And then I think that, I guess if I want to eat a Cheez It, and it brings me back to when I'm 3 years old, and I'm having a full sensual experience, like with the salt and the crunchiness, and that happy feeling is coming up again, is it really unhealthy for me? Or is it more unhealthy to have the thought like, well, these are full of GMO
I
crap,
think they're both.
orangutans are being killed because of the palm oil, and
Yeah,
like it's about your state of mind, and it's about integration, it's about
yeah.
alchemy, it's about
Well,
honor and reverence for
yeah.
the
At the end
earth.
of the day,
All of it.
it's all made from the same thing. It's made from what we're made of, right? That's the way I look at it. That's why I don't really believe in AI, because not AI by the term of a term that would define it, where it creates a separation of things. 'Cause to me, everything's the same. But um, I had this experience. I mean, my eating habits have changed pretty dramatically. If you look at
Yeah,
a
it's
60
cool to
year
hear about.
lifespan,
Love it.
and
Yeah.
and but I will go out about every 10 days when I can afford it. I will go out and treat myself to a nice meal. I mean, to something that's nice, And I've noticed that when I do that, it is a very sensual,
Yeah.
sensory experience.
Yeah.
Everything just slows down, and it's about me. And I mean, I'm even having conversations with what I'm ingesting. You know,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is
Me
which
too.
is you know, of course, I'm around a bunch of weirdos here, so I can say weird things, and nobody's going to throw rocks at me.
I talk to the water a lot
Yeah.
lately. I'm always thanking it. Even if it's just like, say I'm at the sink and the tap is on for whatever. Maybe I'm filling something up. Maybe I'm rinsing something off. It doesn't matter. I'm thanking the water all the time
Yeah,
lately. And
that's a good
and
idea.
I make an altar wherever I go, and I always have the four elements represented on there. So I have some water, in a really pretty bottle, and I have a candle with Mary on it for the fire, and then I have an orchid that represents earth, and what else I got up there? Oh, feathers to represent air.
Mm.
And yeah, and then so it's one of those bureaus. My altar is on top of a bureau. Remember, back in the days, especially the older generations, they would have the glass on top to protect the wood or whatever.
Right, right.
So under the glass, I put pictures of my ancestors, my mom and my both parents, both sets of grandparents, some hummingbirds, my cat, a picture of my dad and I, so it's like my whole altar right now is about ancestors and elements. And my gratitude for almost everything is off the charts right now,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so much gratitude. And Ken, who I live with, he is I mean, his whole thing is we're all here to love each other, and to bring each other happiness. He is the easiest. If this is an assignment, this is like the beginning where I had to like get everything straightened and organized and be the secretary and find contractors and do all that. I mean, it was messy and not fun and whatever, but now we're at the place of beauty and magic. And it's just he's such a doll. He's such a
Mm.
love. He's always so thankful for everything, and thank you for all your work today, and can I have a hug? Good night, and I love you. And he's just, and that's another thing that's coming into my life right now is softness.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got pink curtains for my room, and the textures in here are soft, and it's real light and airy, and I'm just finding my own softness. It's a
I think a
beautiful
lot of
place.
people. I think a lot of people are, and I think people that even thought they were soft
Hmm.
are
Yeah.
getting softer.
Yeah.
No, because we're talking about some deep programming. We all know that,
Yeah.
and but even I mean, look, we can call them programs, or I would say they're at least part of their characteristics is that they're walls. They're walls we put around us. And I've had these thoughts the last couple of days, which is number one, we're raised in a realm that is uh, a victim consciousness realm.
Right.
So if you really pay attention to the different conversations and narratives, every single one of them, including my own, have elements of victim consciousness. And at
Yep.
some point, we've got to say, I would think that we have the opportunity to go, you know what? What's that old little game you used to have when you were a kid, and you would draw on it, and you would pull the thing up and it would wipe it all out?
Oh yeah, I had that.
What was that? Okay, so,
Yep.
but to me, it's like that. It's a etch a sketch, I think is what it's called, etch a sketch, right? So, but like if victim consciousness is at the root of every single thing, it's not even real. Then to be able to come into that awareness and then basically neutralize everything. I guess that's what I'm saying, because I notice it in all these platforms. I notice it coming out of my mouth, even though I don't think I'm in victim consciousness. I might be perpetuating the frequency of it because I'm enabling it, so to speak, by having that. It's like words. Like words cast spells. I mean, being sarcastic. I've really had to work on not being sarcastic for 3 or 4 years. And every time I think I've got this, I catch myself at a different level, holding myself accountable, because you can't, it's not, it's 100% or nothing. I mean, nothing, or buying into it, not at all, or buying into it 99.9 is the same thing. It's either all or nothing. So I think this is where we're at. We're getting an opportunity to actually take this all the way, and not have to go through the motions that we've had to go through. Because,
Well, I'm sorry, you go on.
no,
Because
I was
what?
just going to say, because at the end of the day, what is it? I mean, we can talk about all these different narratives that we've all had. We can compare our scars and all that bullshit. Or we can say, you know what? This whole thing is about victim consciousness. What does the government say? What does religion say? Let me help you. We know what's good for you. You know, and at some level, your friend there, what's his name?
Ken.
Ken. This is a totally different situation, right? How many people have you run into that are in poor health, that are afflicted, that have a revelation, and they literally are present in the moment and in gratitude, and look through their eyes, stand in their shoes, and look at the difference between where we stand and where they do.
Hmm. Yeah, he's amazing. And I told him the other day, I said, do you know how magic you are? So he's an artist. He's been
Mm,
an artist his whole life.
mm,
Um, Back, maybe in his like 20s and 30s, he taught in Portland, Oregon at a I think one was called the School of Art and Advertising, and he taught people how to draw. And then he taught at Bassist Fashion Institute. He taught people how to do like display for stores, and he used to do window display for Nordstrom. And he has designed whole stores himself, where he was given like, and we're talking in the 70s, where
mm.
they give him like $250,000 and say, design us a store, you know. But then he got away from that. He didn't want to work for other people. He just wanted to go into his painting. And so he figured out how to make a life, how to make a living just from painting. And then at some point he got into jewelry, and then at some point he got into photography, and like he's just ultimately creative. And then now he does these, I'll go into his room and see, just to say hi or whatever, and he'll be sitting at his computer and he's working on some collage with all these images that he's collected from the internet, and they're all cosmic. They're like, there's either there's either mermaids, or there's men who are dancing, or there's women who are in the cosmos in the middle of the galaxy doing something like and I'm like, and he's bringing in all this code and he doesn't even know it. He's just silently creating these portals in his room, and
It's exactly what
he
he's
doesn't
doing.
even know that that's what
He's,
he's doing
but
consciously.
the thing is, do we need to know? Right?
No.
Like that's another thing for me. It's like, do I need to know
Yeah.
the hows and the whys and the whats and the
I've
because
stopped.
or
Yeah.
because I mean I'm really getting to a point now where it's almost like, okay, I don't really have a choice here. It's pretty much the writings on the wall to be present, and I can be present when I don't feel good, like right now. I can still be
Hmm.
present. I can
You're
be
doing a great
present when I feel great. I can be present in having a conversation about the past or the future.
job.
You know what I mean? But it's just like wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, that's the number one thing that all of us can do, even if you're in a good mood, bad mood, feel good, don't feel good, whatever the case is. We can be
Yeah.
present. And there seems to be something that there's an engaging aspect in being present that benefits everything in that field, including, the person that's being present.
It sure does. And I'm glad you brought up presence, because I did want to, take my hat off to presence during our conversation, because I've been able to access presence and being present more often most of the time, like for
Mm,
extended periods of time.
yeah.
And what a gift it is, and how important it is, and how it, I mean, for me, I guess right now, the three things that are really on my plate are, or in my field, are integration, alchemy, and presence. And that whole, like, the collapsing of past, present, and future. Um, Yeah, magic and magic. Ken is full of, he has so much magic. Anyway, so check this out. This is a, he, so he has three books. He has this is basically his portfolio in book form. So these are like his still lifes. And then these are his like, he does all these,
Let me see. Let me
pictures
see.
of like houses and chairs and stuff.
Oh,
He
cool.
always has the ocean in the background.
Very
But
cool.
he did some surreal stuff. Like, he's got such a great sense of humor. This is him.
That's nice. I like that.
It's hilarious.
There's a famous
Magritte.
artist. Who is it? There's a famous artist. I don't think that's what you call a minimalist, but there's a famous artist that does stuff like this. And I believe he's an American guy. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
And then, but
Good stuff.
here's what I love the code in this one. Let me just show you this other one. Um, like this is what we're all doing, right?
What's he doing? Oh, what's he doing?
You see that?
Is he
Like, he's bringing that apple into life. Like, he created that. You know what I mean?
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Uh,
That really is. That's awesome. You're in good company over there.
I'll tell you, I hit the jackpot. And when it finally got, it's like there were so many things in this room. I think there were more things in this room. Like, I learned, because that was a whole nother thing we didn't get to talk about, but I know we have limited time. But there's a whole thing about. I know a lot of people on this platform and in the world have done it, but
Hmm.
I had just, before I arrived, I had just spent a couple months getting rid of most everything I own.
Right.
And not just by throwing it in a trash can or delivering it all to Goodwill. I had a lot of integrity in the way I went about it, and where's the proper place to rehome something?
Right.
Would this person benefit from this? Maybe you should give it to them, or keeping everything out of the landfill. Whether it was a thumbtack or whether it was a paper clip, and just there was a whole lot of mindfulness. It was a mindfulness practice, and it took a lot of energy. And I didn't know I was going to have to do it again when I got here. There was no forewarning about any of that. Like, hey, you got this whole inside and outside that you're going to have to transform when you arrive. No clue.
Mm.
And but there was something I was going to say about that. Oh, that it was so fun when I finally got to where I could actually decorate my room, because
Mm.
I'm not going to go out into the world and buy things I don't need, and
Right.
I'm not going to spend a lot of money doing it because I'm only going to be here for a while. So I used what was already in the house. Like, I bought myself this new bed because I just didn't want to sleep on a bed of somebody that I didn't know how old it was, and the person didn't even live on the planet, and I don't know what kind of energy's in there, and I just don't want to deal with it. So I just bought myself a new bed. And I bought myself some new rugs because there's like wall to wall carpeting, and that's a thing for me. Wall to wall carpeting is not my thing. So I just covered it up. So anyway, when I got to the place where I could decorate the room, I got to go into Ken's storage room where he has all his art and just pick pieces of
Oh,
his that I
wow.
like and put them on my wall,
Wow.
you know? And I just felt so blessed. I'm like, wow, now it's time to decorate, and I get to decorate my room with Ken's art. So cool. Very
There's a
blessed.
there's a good comment here from Renee Daniels. So I started being more intensely present with my boyfriend instead of going into resistance when he got on subjects that I wasn't interested in, and I
Mm.
watched him shift and become completely present in himself. Uh, okay, so and not to break it down to two people, but I think this is another thing. That whole adage of it's never them, it's always me. I don't see there being any exception to that whatsoever. I think we went through this phase where people were talking about put up boundaries, and I think that has become outdated. I don't believe there's anything that we can divorce ourselves from. Obviously, we know this. So why wouldn't we attempt to apply that here? And I think that's a good example of what she's talking about. What happens instead of, like she said, resisting, or let's just be honest about it, trying to change another person or a situation? that you can't physically control, and go into your own internal frequency bands and make the adjustment there. Now, theoretically, either something like what she's talking about will occur with the other energy, or they just kind of go their separate ways, right? I mean, I think this is I think what I've noticed is that there's not as much projection in the communities as there used to be, right? And
You're
I know,
Go ahead.
and so basically, I'm thinking that more people are going into themselves in more and more situations, which to me is another type of characteristic of
Growth.
self empowerment, and
Mm-hmm.
not externalizing,
Mm-hmm.
reaching for whatever we're looking for outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. You're hitting all the nails on the head. Like the things that you have brought up are all things I wanted to touch on today. And you've really helped me through this journey, because I have heard your voice in my head so many times say, it's all you, it's
Mm.
all you, it's all you. And I just soften and relax and own and alchemize, and it's all fine. And I have this, we have ourselves, and then we observe ourselves. So however that works, inside, outside, or whatever the illusion is, you think you're observing yourself from the outside or whatever, but we have ourselves, and then we observe ourselves. And then I have this third observer, which is Ken, because Ken is super astute, and he's very observant, because he has to be, because he's a painter, so he has to pay attention to light and subtleties and texture and all of this, right? So he'll be in the living room and I'm in the kitchen, but he can see me from where he is, and he'll say, "Oh, you look very pensive right now," or "Oh, what you doing over there?" And so I've got this like third observer, even, and um, it's an interesting element. At first, it was kind of like bugging me. I was like, "Oh my God, I don't have any psychological space." And then I was like, no, this is really good. It's bringing attention to you about,
Yeah,
how you're moving, and how your body language is, and how your presence is, and how you affect the energy in a room. Like, how is Ken experiencing you right now?
right, right.
So, it's been really good.
Or what are
Yeah,
you not seeing? Yeah,
yeah, it's been
yeah.
really,
I,
really
and I
good.
think these are good things. These are good
Yeah,
signs. These
yeah.
are good things. I think we've by far un- underestimated, past tense, underestimated the level of transformation that we've done individually and therefore collectively, even if it's a group of the whole world, just a small group or whatever. Because obviously we're not getting any press by traditional or typical means. Uh,
Thank goodness.
but to me, it's the that's what I mean, like, about having this type of show, because to me it's the little things that are the big things, and the big things that are the little things. So I don't get caught up in numbers. Less and less and less do I go, oh wow, what are we doing wrong? We don't have the numbers that platform has, or some. I don't see it that way anymore, because of what you brought up earlier. How many connections have we made? It's one thing to have, and I'm not talking about Sology, I'm talking about an energy. So it's one thing to say, I've got so many followers, or I've got so many views, but it's another thing to look at the connectivity. Because I really feel like, if you want to put it in metaphoric terms or even literal terms, that we are all, as people say, fractals or aspects or souls, parts of the universe that's reconnecting to itself. So if this is about embodying, how do we make connections, and bearing in mind that like begets like, but how are you going to find out if something's connectable if you don't give it a shot, or you don't enter the arena? So I think there'll be a lot of people stepping out this year, and there's a lot of people, particularly women, that I found that are doing what you're doing. They got the call. Get rid of your stuff with integrity. And where are you going? I don't know. Right? In fact, I'm kind of in the same boat right now. Um, we're working on getting Morgan back over here. We've got the Soulogy Fest coming up, and I've got to be out of here by the end of May. And I'm like, I don't
Well,
know. I
out
don't
of
know.
your house.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
What that means. I mean, it's like
yeah.
you got to really be open.
Well, you've done this enough that you probably, well, I shouldn't compare you to anybody else, but I mean, when I think of the times that you and Morgan have picked up and gone here and gone there and I guess, I have to, but just maybe over a longer, span of time. But since you and Morgan have known each other, you guys have done a lot of moving around,
Oh yeah.
and I think the human likes to know. It likes to know
Yeah.
like, where am I gonna go, man? Like, I have no clue where I'm going when I leave
Yeah.
work. No clue. And guess what? I'm not supposed to know.
No.
And this whole thing is like, with seeing your journey and how you care for the world around you and the world around you cares back. Um, I'm just so stoked because I know that, like, you and the universe dance together. So you've got something planned that you don't know yet, and the
Yeah.
universe has something planned that you don't know yet,
Right.
and you guys are going to do this next piece together,
Right.
except you don't know what it looks like,
Right.
and I know it's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know?
with you. I think that's the only way the magic works. Because if you look at what you were saying, like what the human wants, I mean, just look at the basic template of the last 60, 70, 80 years, say post World War II, which is what? You go to work somewhere, you work there all your life, you retire, whether you go to school, get a degree or 2 degrees or three, you go somewhere, a certain industry or a certain employer, and you retire there. You know where you're going from the onset, right? But what about all of these stories that have come out since 2012, which is really, kind of, you're exemplifying that right now. My friends that moved from California, 70 years old, been there 10 years and moved from California, they got the same call, sell their stuff. They go to Sedona and they're told, you're going to be taken care of. And I need to make contact with them again, but I haven't talked to them like in a month. But like they're sitting there and nothing materialized, but they keep hearing from their guides, don't worry, we got you. Like this is getting to the point where, because I think we all know once our soul nudges us, we can't go back. So we're already in. We might as well jump in with both feet,
Yeah.
even if we can't understand it. Because I don't think we're going to get any guarantees. We never have before.
Yeah.
Not from this source that we're sourcing through. The world will give us a guarantee, which isn't worth the paper it's written on. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Anyway.
404. Hey,
Hmm.
so one other thing. Okay, what was I presencing just now? They get the call. I was thinking about your friends and moving, and service is the one
Hmm.
thing I wanted to touch on too.
Hmm.
Like Sology is service. People creating codes and sharing them with everybody else is service. What I'm doing right now is service. We started the show off talking about that, right? Like, there's so many ways to serve. Looking at a flower and really appreciating it and letting it know, like, you're so beautiful, thank you for being here. That's a form of
A
service.
service. Holding
And
space is service.
but I think, yes, and holding space is service. And I think that the egoic mind can think like, I'm serving the other. And it's
Hmm.
like, no, you're serving yourself. It's
That's
all
right.
you. That's what you
That's
say,
right.
right? It's all you. So,
Mm.
and then that just really helps to know, like that softening and knowing, wherever you go, whatever you serve, you're really serving yourself. And the softening and the knowing that it's all you, and that we are here in service, is just like, my whole body tingles when I talk about it. So there must be some importance to that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, it's the age of the Trinity. If we do serve ourselves, we're first of all we're at our best to serve outside of us. But if we, the idea being, when we serve ourselves, it's in equal measure we're serving the others and the universe.
Mhm.
And I think that's what Ty says. When when it's a true download because it's immediately shareable. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of a quantum statement in my mind, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, I would hang out longer, but I got another show and I'm gonna have to go lay down for a while. I still feel like
Yeah.
shit.
Thank you for coming on, even though you
Yep.
didn't feel good.
Well, we got to
And I
do what we
just
got to
want you
do.
to know,
Hmm.
if you add up all the dates of the first day of Sology, You add up the 9 and the 2 and the 3 and the 2 and the 2 and the 2.
Uh-huh.
And you reduce it to a single digit. It's 3, which is the Trinity.
That is the key number. The 3 is the key
3
number.
is the magic number.
Oh man, I forgot we should have got you to sing a song. We'll be back in 54 minutes with
Love you,
a new
everybody.
friend. We have a new friend on in 54 minutes. All
Yay,
right,
new
love you.
friend.
Take
Love you,
care.
Soul Tribe. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Delia. Hi, Terry. Hi, Allison. Bye.